only Belinda Bekter. Did I get that right?
You did. You did.
Yeah.
Yeah, not everybody does. So, awesome.
Well, I'm supposed to be a trained professional or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
ditto.
Like, yeah. We both pretend to know what I think the biggest thing I realized as an adult, and I actually became adult, is that I realized that most adults have no clue what they're doing either. It's just kind of one of those things where we just somehow make it through the day. It's
Oh,
like,
we're
oh,
totally faking it. We're totally faking it.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. I pretend I'm a podcaster, and I that writes stuff, and you pretend you write stuff, and then whatever other plans of world domination you have.
Yeah, mostly writing stuff.
Mostly writing
Lots
stuff.
of writing stuff.
Well, writing the stuff's important, right?
It
And
is.
sometimes
It
and
is.
sometimes it's even good, right? And sometimes
Sometimes you even get a book out of it. So,
sometimes people like it, and then sometimes you get rewards for it. Sometimes you get like zillions of dollars. Most of the time, though, it's just like I told my story. Yes,
pretty much. Pretty much.
yes, yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Like I said, as you see, I take myself very seriously on this show. Yes, very, very.
Yeah, I actually I tried to watch some of your podcasts, but my antivirus wouldn't let me.
Oh,
So
wow.
I don't know what that's about. I don't know what your content is, but oh my.
Well, some of it can be quite saucy. Some of it depends on who my guest is. But it also depends on where you get to. Like I'm on all the platforms, so I'm on Spotify, I'm on Google, I'm on Apple. So if you get it there, I'm
Yeah, I'll
pretty
try
sure.
some other way. Yeah.
Yeah, try some other way. But as it was, my current episodes on the audio right now are Christopher Russell, where we talk JRPGs, Japanese role playing games. I don't know if you, I don't. Somehow I feel you might be a gamer. Something tells me there might be a little part of you that goes, "I'll play something," but I somehow feel video games aren't your thing.
They're not. I played some actually when my kids were younger, but
It's not your thing.
I
Yeah,
just don't have time. It's not that I have anything against them. I just
yeah.
seriously don't have time. You know.
So what fills your time?
Um, Writing. I have 3 different writing groups that meet weekly. I'm on the board of the Queer Seniors of Saskatchewan, so we do a lot of education and advocacy for queer seniors health, queer seniors housing. Um, we just did a thing last week called Spotlight and Seniors. We had a table at it. It was basically a big, huge market for product and services for seniors. So we had a table at that, and I did a presentation with 3 other board members yesterday for Cumberland College out of Regina, and that went really well. So we had 4 of us to tell a bit about of our stories and talk about things that we think are important. So there's always something on the go.
Well, yeah, I like honestly what it comes down to, like for all of us, whatever those passions, drives, desires are, whatever you feel compelled to do, at the end of the day, we do what we want to do, and we make the and by saying that, we have things we prioritize. Now, for you, right, for you, that is writing books, writing of the books, right, spreading your message as many different places as you possibly can,
Hmm.
and and in your spare time, it sounds like you have kids. So I mean, so it sounds to me like whatever time that's not that you probably try to spend as much with them as you can, and the rest of it is whatever you're lucky to do at that point.
Well, my daughter is going to be 40, so I don't have to worry too much about chasing around after her. She actually lives in Edmonton.
Oh wow! So that's I mean, I'm sure you see each other once in a while. I hope so.
Oh yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, yeah. We saw them a while ago, and probably see them at Christmas time, and yeah, they tend to come here more than we get there, which is fine because they're younger, her and her husband. So, but yeah, it's always good to see them.
yeah. So I mean, like I said, the important stuff. I mean, actually, like I said, I'm 41, and I've hit this point in my life where it's like this is what for me. It's like it's got to make me happy.
Mhm.
It's got to make me money. All right, one of those. All right, it's got to make me
One of
money. Right,
those for sure.
and it can't waste my time. And then right, it has to be fun. I am combining fun with money because I am too old to try to separate the two. I'm going to goof off and get paid for it. That's just the way
Yeah,
it is. That
that's
I
awesome. That's a good plan.
That is probably the most adult decision I've ever made, to be very honest with you.
Well, it's a good plan. I say
Well,
go for it.
well, yeah. I mean, time's precious. Like I think one of the things about the whole like I mean, we'll talk about your books in just a second because obviously you made a decision a long time ago that this is what I'm going to do, and you've done it, and you've and I am sure you've kicked all kinds of ass doing it. I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. But I mean, hey, listen, you might as well build your stuff up because the way I look at it is, you bust like how much time do you spend doing this? You love it, so
I
you
do.
should.
I love it, and I spend an amazing amount of time on it.
Yeah. So therefore, yeah, build yourself up. I mean, you've worked hard for it. Yeah, my books are fucking awesome, right? That's the way it should. That's the way it should be, right? Because it's just like you put in the time. I think one of the things that my favorite things when you're doing just writers in general is they get very shy. It's like, oh, my work's not that. It's like, no, it probably really is because you're putting in the time and the effort and the energy and you got something to say, or you
Yeah.
wouldn't have this these tomes with words you've put down. So you got to have something that's worth saying. So it's got value. So
Yeah, totally.
yeah, so if it has value, you should totally tout it. Like, right? You may not be Hemingway or you may not be a all-time classic literary blah blah blah, but you don't have to be that. You can
No,
just be
no.
Belinda. You can be Belinda Bekter, rock star, and just own it and just own that,
Yeah,
right?
I'm good with that. Totally good
Yeah,
with that. Yeah. And
yeah,
it's fun. You talked about fun. There's certainly an element of fun in it. Even if it's a poem that never eventually gets published, it's fun to write it. It's fun to take it to my writing groups and get feedback on it, and it's fun to have around. It's
yeah.
worth
No,
it.
yeah, exactly. No, exactly. So. And I say, meaning to both. Okay, well, nice. How you doing, Mum Guyver? This is Belinda, the rock star. That's what I'm going to call you now. I'm sorry. I hope you're okay
Okay,
with
hey,
this.
I'll take it. I'll
Yeah,
take
that's
it.
right, right. And I'm just some dude with a big mouth. That's why I try to be funny. I don't always succeed, but that's why I have my own show. But we'll leave it at that, right?
You
But
own it. It's all
yeah, that's right.
yours.
Hey, you got again. There's a balance, right? You got to have the confidence to believe that you got something worth doing. That's why you're putting words to page, right? So, what was that moment for you? Where was that moment you decided, like, this is what I'm making stuff up. I'm going to have fun doing it, and that's what I want.
Well, it goes way back. I mean, I've told this story many times, and it's been recorded a number of times. When I was in grade three, I had a poetry assignment, and I got a gold star and an A plus. So like double whammy. Yeah, total thumbs up, right? And I was hooked. I mean, I always liked rhythm and sound and rhyme and things, but to write some words of my own and be acknowledged for it and praised for it was heady excitement. It was just way up there. So I mean, it's not like the next day I went out and started writing poem after poem after poem, but it was always in the back of my mind. It was always a favorite subject in school. Was writing. And when I was about 19, I left home. I was out on my own. I was living in Victoria, and uh, a friend moved in with me, and she was writing a novel, and I was writing my poems, and she said, you should really, like, really try to do something with these. So I started sending some poems out to different magazines, many of which are still around today, like Grain Magazine, and I got positive feedback, but no publication. But it was still just a dream, and then life got in the way for a really long time, and it just sat on the back burner until I was just about 40 years old, and I had to have a surgery that I didn't want to have, um, but I had to have it for my own well-being. And so I had a long recovery. I was in the hospital for about a week after the surgery, doing nothing, which is very unusual for me. And I wrote a poem while I was in the hospital, and it just made me feel so much better on so many levels. So when I got out of the hospital and I had a long recovery at home, I thought I've got to do something about this. I have to I have to write poems. That's what I want to do, and I did. I I found out about the Writer in Residence program at the Saskatoon Public Library here. Got accepted into a workshop, met other writers, um, found out about the Saskatchewan Writers Guild. They were having a conference here in town, so I went to that and met other writers. And next thing you know, I was on the board of the Writers Guild and finding writing community and um, joining writing groups, and it's carried on ever since then. So it's been a couple of decades of really doing what I really wanted to do.
So basically, you had one of those life-altering moments of,
Yeah, truly.
yeah. So I joked with this with the last guy on my show. I told you you had to try to be now. You had to legitimately be an adult and be responsible for the people in your life, and that's a great thing. But at some point in the journey, oh, did you ever cross paths with Don? She asked us a question, so we'll ask that. Did you ever cross paths with Don Kerr?
I did. Yeah, he was a pillar in the community for sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't know him well, but I certainly knew who he was, and admired his work.
Oh, so there you go. There's an answer to that question. But it's basically like at some point you made the decision that you had to do something for you. Right. And you
Yeah.
realize in the hospital's that moment in time, it's like, I gotta do this. Right.
And at that time, I had um, two. How old were my kids then? Um, grade 8, and grade 10, I think.
15 and
Maybe
13.
somewhere. Yeah, somewhere in there. So I mean, I was a stepmom, and I loved being a mom, and I had a full time job, and I loved that. But I was almost driven now to explore poetry and
Yeah.
do something about it, and I wanted to have my own book.
We all have to, Mom Diver. Like we have to, because if we don't, then what are we doing? At some point it has to be about like you're here for a certain amount of time. Having responsibilities like kids and making sure they're fed is important, and I get that. But ultimately, I mean, we all have these different things inside us that kind of we want to do, and I think it's important that we do those things,
Yeah,
no matter
I totally agree.
no matter how it looks to the outside. Maybe especially because, like for example, for me next year, I'm taking this podcast will break 1,000 sometime next year, so I'm going to go on the road. So I'm going to go on the road.
Awesome.
This is no. Let me tell you what. Oh, I'll tell you the rest of it. So I'm gonna have like a little like mobile bar where it'll be ice cream and like alcohol mixed together. Right.
I will show up and I will have something.
see, that's the thing. See, everybody likes this idea because again, I don't think there's. Again, if anyone tells me that they don't like ice cream, I think you're a liar. I just think you're a liar. I don't care how old you are. You might not like a flavor. I'll buy that, but ice cream.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't go wrong, right?
Yeah. And as far as the booze element goes, like I've experimented a little bit. Like for example, ice cream with like mint ice cream with Bailey's is fantastic.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I would all order one of those.
Yeah. You're like I'm in. You're like I'm in.
I'm in totally.
Yeah. See, like that. I just create customers like that, and I think also like we're not through difficult times. We're actually in some ways about to get into really difficult times. I think across the nation. And one of the things I realized about life is we are looking. The cool thing writers can do, and the cool thing artists do, is we're looking for escapes into whatever it is we're choosing to escape to. Like when you're choosing to write a story, you get immersed in the world, and it's always a lot of fun to do that. But like we all value that experience. Like if we're not escaping ourselves by creating worlds, we want to engage in something that an experience or we want to feel. And I think it's one of the most undervalued things about this life is we spend most of our life looking for things to feel because those, ironically, are where the real stories are.
I agree.
Yeah. And then for you is like I'm fun. So did you read poetry like in like high school, college? Like, and what did you read? Because I actually do poetry too. So.
Oh, okay. I certainly read poetry. I don't know at what age I realized that poetry was a contemporary language as well as something that old dead white guys wrote. You've heard that phrase before, because a lot of high school poetry is is all dead white European guys. So to find out that there were actually contemporary Canadians writing, Canadian women writing, um, it was mind blowing. It really was. I was like, okay, so people are doing this, and this is maybe something I can do too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like for me, I'd like the Gilgamesh style epics. Like I just because I loved it.
Oh,
I read Coleridge and I read a guy by the name of Calvin Miller, and it was like I'll do that one day. And then I accidentally did it one day, and now people go, no, it was a total accident, and it actually got traditionally published by accident too. But that's another. We'll get into that maybe a little later because
oh
about you
wow.
know me. Yeah, I know. It was hey, so I think if anything about me you learn from is just putting stuff out there can lead to great things.
Yeah.
Just in putting stuff out there alone. And it can go beyond whatever expectations you can possibly imagine if you're open to those possibilities. And that's might be the hardest thing about being, I think, a Canadian writer, honestly, is that open possibility to better things. A lot of Canadian writers don't see it.
And for me, it's very much, and I've said this many times before too. Part of the reason is not just for myself because writing feels good and I connect to it, but a lot of it is connection to other people. If I'm
Mhm.
in a reading or somebody sends me an email after they've read something of mine that really connects to them, that's the biggest power of it. That sense of connection at some level, even if what they get out of what I've written is something different than what I started out with, it doesn't matter. There's that connection as two people finding some common ground, and that's huge to me.
Yeah, because it means we're not alone, and I mean that's
Yeah,
what it ultimately means. When you're writing or you're doing anything, you realize that it feels very solitary. It's not really solitary when you really take a step back, but there are steps that definitely feel very alone. So you wonder,
right.
will anyone give a rat's ass about what I do? Right, and you have those moments, right? Like,
No,
what does this
yeah, totally.
like? What does this matter? And then you then in your more how do we put this, less manic moments, you realize it's the only thing that really matters ultimately
Yeah,
at the end of the day is, again, it's about doing what you love with people you love. That's it. Like I don't like I believe in God. Not everybody necessarily puts that in the category, but really doing what you love with people you love. That's life
yeah.
in a
It doesn't get any
nutshell.
better than that, right?
Right, well, that's it. That's the closest thing to heaven you'll get to on earth. No matter what it looks like, no matter what anybody else on the outside sees, if you're with the people that really matter to you, you're truly blessed because that means you have people that really matter to you, and that's a precious thing. Maybe the truest treasure in the world.
Yeah, we're on the same page. This is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. You're like, I am so into this. But yeah, like I think like for me on the pandemic, the one thing I've learned about the pandemic is like a lot of people are still feeling very isolated, and it's not a natural state for us. We all crave connection. We all do. It's one of the reasons I do this podcast. I have a big mouth, and oh my gosh, there are other people out there that want to talk stuff. That's awesome, right? And that's important because that means again what I do is going to resonate with somebody. It's not going to just go resonate with my guests. It's going to resonate with anybody that listens or watches the show, right? The maybe the simplest thing to do in life is to follow your heart. It might be the hardest thing to do, but it's the best thing to do, I have found.
And I find a lot of people avoid it maybe because they don't believe that it is the best thing for them to do, or they haven't been raised to trust that inner voice that leads them there. Um, sometimes it takes people. Well, it took me, until that health crisis to really feel like I've been kicked in the butt by life, and go ahead and follow some of the stream.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think this is what I think. I think a lot of us are taught that we have to be a certain way, right? I accuse my last guest. I might accuse you the same thing. We have to be adults. We have to be real. And then one day you just realize that there is no real world, and it's a really revolutionary thought. Wait, none of this is real. Oh my gosh. And I say it, and what I mean by that, folks, is this: it's that the expectations of what there are no expectations for what the world is and what you do in it. You ultimately do what you want to do. Now, if you bring kids into the world and have a family, yeah, you probably should, feed them and clothe them and deal with whatever BS you got to deal with to do that. But at the end of the day, you also have to realize too that like it's not just about bread and water and just getting through the day. It's also about experiences, encouraging your kids to follow their own dreams, whatever they might be. And if you're not brave enough to chase your own stuff, they won't be either, because they'll have your example to go by. So at some point, right, even now again, you may not be able to go as fast as someone without kids, but at the same time, you can still go and you can still make things happen.
And you can always be creative in whatever form that takes.
Exactly. I mean, maybe again, maybe in a slightly different lifetime. Like you're talking about poetry and rhyme and stuff like that. You might literally have been a rock star, maybe in a different thing. Because I mean, this might sound like a joke, but the thing is, if you think about poetry today, where a lot of poetry exists, it's music, right? Music is music, and if you want to go like in written form, probably the most successful poet of the last 100 years is Dr. Seuss. And that sounds really strange when you sit there and think about it, but it's true,
Yeah.
right? He's got a musical quality to his stuff. And the thing about him is it's simple. That's why it's so genius,
And it's
right?
fun. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't try to be, you don't always, I think when we try to be like, we seek what the master sought, like the one of those seeking where the master sought. What I realize is the masters are like us in the sense they had their own doubts, feelings, insecurities, battles, whatever. But eventually there comes a point you gotta have to kind of make peace with who you are and figure out what you do best. Now in my case, I have a big mouth, right? But also I'm being self-deprecating about this a little bit, but I'm also I have creative, I want to have fun and I want to encourage people to have fun, because the best joy brings out the best in us all. And I would rather help bring a little magic of joy into the world, because everybody else seems to want to create drama. And I don't know. I'm too old for that shit. I just want
Yeah. Oh, drama. Leave. Not into that.
yeah,
Not into that.
ice cream and Bailey's for all.
Ice cream. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Some Grand Marnier, maybe on some maple walnut ice cream. That'd be good.
Yeah.
I'd have that.
Yeah. So see, like I said, we would have fun. I could tell already. Me and you would have a blast.
We would.
Right.
We totally would.
Yeah. So I mean, that's important. The rest of it, I mean, I'm suppose there's a need for seriousness sometimes. I don't know about you, but I hate it when I'm the adult in the room. It's like, oh man, it's me. Really?
Well, it might happen a little more often for me than you, but
Well, no. You see,
it's about balance. It's about balance.
Well. See. Here's the thing for you. You're in charge of writing groups, and right, or you're not, or at least how would this not in charge, the problem solver, and because of that, you have to be an adult sometimes, and it
Yeah.
sucks because, and you probably have seen your fair share of now legitimate problems like big stuff. Okay, I understand that.
Yeah,
I'll deal
yeah.
with that. I'm there. But then there's the silly shit that comes with, like the stuff that you have to keep a straight face in that moment. But in your head, you're like, this is the dumbest thing
I do
I've
so
ever-"
much eye rolling in my head sometimes. Seriously, it's
Yeah, no, yeah, because some of it is silly.
it totally is.
Because you're like, I can only imagine what high school was like for you, but it probably was very similar to me in the sense of that person doesn't like that person, blah, 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 blah. And when you hear that in an adult form, like when you can break it down in an adult form, it feels worse. The teenager has an excuse. They're young and don't know better. The adult, you're like, how did you make it this far?
We've run into the same sort of people, haven't we?
Yeah. Yes, we have.
Maybe the exact same people.
It wouldn't shock me. I know some of the people you deal with, and it's some. I'm not gonna say all of them, and some of them are fantastic, but some of them you're like, how did you do this? And see, it's one of the actually reasons I do believe in God. See, miracles, walking miracles happen every day. It's just one of those things. Like I don't understand how you're still here, but you are, and good for you. And
Make the
and
best of it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. It's like I try to avoid why sometimes. Like sometimes I try to avoid the question why because it sometimes I get an answer and the answer is more terrifying than the question. I've learned sometimes I can't help myself. It's like, okay, I have to know why are you doing it like this? I have to know because this makes no sense to me. And then you get your answer, and sometimes you're like, every once in a while, it's like, okay, that does make sense. I didn't see it that way. Okay, cool. But sometimes it's like, my head hurts more now that I know than when I started.
Or if you ask, three more whys and you're still not getting anything wiser out of the person.
Then at that point, I just go to my Bailey's and ice cream. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
I just go very straight. We're done here. Like that's pretty much what's happened. It's like we're done here, and that's all there is to it, right? You have to. Again, I'm not saying this in the form of like it's trying to be belittling. It's just like again, it's amazing how much people can change and
it's true.
how much people don't change at the same time. And you're like, this is unbelievable. Like sometimes it's like, and sometimes it's amazing. Look, I can be openly admit there are some things I did as a kid. I'm sure I still do as an adult, and again, we all are guilty of this. I think on some level, right?
We
I'd
have our
like to,
defaults.
yeah, we do. We all do, and I'm a big enough man to admit it. And if I'm conscious enough to catch it, I do. I try not. I try. I try not, even though I can look and say and hear like call shit like I see it. If I think it's petty, dumb BS, I will say it. At this point in my life, I think that's the other advantage I have over you. You're an administrator. You have to exercise patience. I'm a freelancer. I don't have to. I mean I should sometimes, but I don't actually have to. And every once in a while, just you hit that button. It's like, no, I'm not dealing this. Whereas you're like, fuck. She's not
Oh,
denying it either.
oh, you remind me so much of some people I know.
Good or bad? I hope in
Oh
a
no,
good way.
good, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Just that kind of dynamism and that willingness to seriously look at what you're doing and where you want to go and how you want to do things. Some
Hmm.
people don't ever get there. They just follow that default that they grew up with or experienced when they were young, and they don't consciously think about things. They just kind of, follow along in whatever little rut that they learned when they were younger, and without realizing that, they can change things, but they have to make a conscious effort to that, and to think about what they really want
Yeah.
and
No,
what's the better thing for them.
well, I don't know if I know the better thing. See, sometimes one of the things I realize about wants is they're not always necessarily for the best for you
Well,
either. Yeah, there are
yeah,
some things.
there's that.
There is that aspect to it. So I don't always know if what I'm doing is necessarily the best course of action. But so I go back to, and this of all things, I've had my sister on the show. And she knows the story very well. One of her friends, I remember in high school, I had this huge crush on, but I never did anything with it. And
Okay.
here's the thing: I'm 41. I have done an epitome of stupid shit. I have done an epitome of it. I have forgotten most of it. Unless I've really hurt somebody, I have forgotten most of it. I still remember that decision
Ah,
years and years and years later. What I realize about life is your mistakes, you will forget and forgive them eventually, right? People will forget and forgive your mistakes if they're honest. If you're accountable, provided you're accountable,
mm,
where I can say, hey, listen, I'm an idiot, right? And I can openly, honestly admit my faults and try to do better. As long as I have that, people will forgive you. But regrets are forever.
yeah, yeah.
Regrets are forever. And I kind of made up a little promise to myself, and like a very like after that's like I would never ever I would try to have no regrets in this life. Now, I still have a handful,
Yeah.
but it's only a handful. I'm doing everything in here I can possibly think of for as long as I can. If I don't get to some things because I don't get there, that's one thing, right? But I can live with that. It's the effort to try, if that makes sense. I'm
Oh,
trying.
totally makes sense. And the thing about making a mistake is you can learn from it. If you make a mistake and you don't learn from it and you keep repeating it, or hurt somebody with a mistake and keep hurting them, like, and you're not learning anything,
That's wrong,
that's wrong.
right? If
That's a true thing to regret.
yeah, no, it is. No. When you no, I think well, okay, so here's the other thing too. I'm old enough where I realize it's starting to get harder for me to change. I'm not saying I can't change, but it's starting to get harder because part of it is I'm comfortable and again, I think as you get older, you get a little lazier in the sense of the fact that, I'm comfortable like this. I'm good with it. Right? There's part of it. I think that's partially true for everybody. But the other part of it too is this. I think there are some things with all of us. Like some of the flaws I had as a kid, I'm going to keep with me my whole life.
Mhm.
It's just who I am. And I think having that acceptance of that, even if it leads to some of the same stupid mistakes sometimes, I can live with that. It's just I think the thing is difference between that and the difference between what we're talking about with the people doing the petty ass shit and just kind of walking through life asleep, right? I'm at least awake enough to realize that, okay, this is my fuck up and this is going to occasionally lead to this. I'm good with it. I'm just going to be accountable when I get there. Right?
Accountability is huge. It
Yeah,
really is.
that's it. Like I don't again, it's one of those things I think again, it's one of those things I realize like I'm 41. So I'm just a little older than your daughter. I'm young enough still to do crazy shit. So I'm going to probably still be doing crazy shit probably for at least another 10 years or so. Okay, right? Do all everything in my heart I kind of want to do. But I also realize that there's going to come a point where those changes are going to be harder for me to do. Right? They're just going to be
Yep,
harder. They're just going to be
it's
harder.
true.
And you're right. That doesn't mean I can't change, but it means that it's going to be a slower process for me to change. And there are some things I'm not going to be able to change. And I think making again, it's one of the cool things about me being younger is I can become anything I want. But I've been anything I've wanted for so long. It's going to be hard for me to kind of go back into something. If I have to be something else, I might not be able to do it. And ironically enough, I'm okay with that, if that makes sense.
That's a good place to be too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peace with oneself, right? I think it's that inner piece of understanding who you are and who you're not. And you're not going to change that no matter what the rest of the world may think. Right? And that's I'm cool. I might live long enough to see myself become the villain of the story. I actually right, and that's fine too. Right? And but that honesty, that accountability, that being able to look oneself in the mirror, that takes it takes a lot of courage too. Like one of the other things too is I've realized I've done things in my life where I realize I'm not always the hero of the story. And it's okay that sometimes I'm the villain. And sometimes it's not a bad thing. I mean, you've raised kids. Sometimes you need that inner villain to come out. You need that
Oh yeah.
inner Mr. Sinister to come out and go, "No, my children, this is what you're doing." Right? Yeah. It's seriously, guys. The secret origin of supervillains are disgruntled parents. That's the secret origin right there, right? They couldn't figure out their kids, so now they're taking it out on the rest of the world, right? So that's there you go, secret origin done, right? But yeah, once you realize you're not the hero or you're not the villain of the story, that's when you
Sometimes
can
you're the bit, the cameo.
yeah,
Sometimes you're the walk on.
yeah, and that's fine too. I'm good
Yeah,
with
it
that,
is. Yeah.
right? Actually, they're the best roles because so I don't know how much movie time you have, but like one of my the original Space Jam, my favorite thing in that was Bill Murray coming out of nowhere playing for the team. It's just like he's just a walk on pretty much. It's like
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, he's just a
yeah.
total walk on. He was just there, right? He was just there. It's just like that's a cool little thing, and he got away with it because he's Bill Murray. That's really that's
And it's not the only time he's done that sort of thing either.
no, it's right. But so it's like, wait, I can just be a walk on and people love me, and it works.
And they're still talking about it years later.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the best one of his is Zombieland. That's my favorite one.
Is which one? Sorry.
Zombieland.
Oh, have I seen that one? I don't know that I have.
It's a comedic take on the zombie apocalypse. So Bill Murray actually hides. You see, face paints himself like a zombie. He's actually still Bill Murray in the apocalypse. But
I have not seen that, but it sounds fun.
It's fun. It's a fun. It's literally it's about a quest for Twin Peaks at the end of the day. I mean, I'm not going to spoil too much about it, but it's the apocalypse, and it's a fun take on the zombie apocalypse, and a time. So the first Zombieland is hilarious by and large. Bill Murray's cameo. I'm sorry I spoiled it for you because the movie's about 15 years old. He's Bill Murray in the apocalypse? That's it. Oh my god! Really? Yes, it works. It oddly works. So
well, I mean, you can't go wrong with zombie movies anyway.
Well,
I guess maybe you can, but yeah, there's a level of fun to any zombie movie that I've ever watched.
Well, I think the thing is, there's only so many good zombie stories. That's the thing. Like, there's good ones, and then there's fun ones.
See, I only watch the good fun ones. I don't watch the bad ones. I walk away.
Oh, okay. So no, that's it. But there was at one point there was a plethora of those things, and you said, how do we tie zombies into everything? And there's that period, and then eventually it's like, how can we tie vampires into everything, or how can we tie unicorns, or
werewolves, or
yeah. Like we have this phase like, let's put this silly trapping in here and kind of make it work, and sometimes it really doesn't. And so, but like Zombieland is the perfect B movie zombie movie. It's not serious. It's fun, right? It just happens, and you just go with the ride, and it's a good time by and large, right? And like I said, Bill Murray is hilarious in there, and it's got Woody Harrelson in it, and it's just a fun. I'm
gonna put that on my list, and hopefully it'll pop up on.
No, you'll see. You'll be like Zombieland. You'll be like, and then I'll get an email from you a few weeks later. I approve of your Zombieland choice. That's what you'll say. I approve of this choice, right? And then it'll be like, but all of that for a Twinkie? Yes, all of that for a Twinkie. But that's okay. That's neither here nor there. So let's keep going here. So is it just poetry you do? Or you do other stuff too?
Mostly poetry, but some personal essay or a combination of poetry and personal essay, like the presentation I did for Zas Books a week and a half ago. I think I had up to an hour, and I thought that's too much time to just present poetry. So I interspersed with personal essay and personal memory and some background about particular poems and so it's a combination of story and story within poetry.
Yeah. Well, again, I love that. I did so. One of my poetry things, I think you'll dig this. I did Alice in Wonderland and Greek mythology, and I mashed it together. I made Alice Pandora.
Oh, cool!
It works very, very well, right? And I think it's cool because poetry has some fun little elements to it that prose can do some really cool like real world building. What I love about poetry is it can world build. Don't get me wrong. I think poetry can do a wonderful job of it too, but it leaves a lot more gaps to the imagination than prose does.
And that's one of the things that draws me about poetry is that space to bring my own experience to it and some imagined experience as well, if that makes sense.
Yo, sure.
Yeah.
So okay, I gotta ask then. We talked a little bit about music. We talked a little bit about Dr. Seuss. What do you think about rap? I'm very curious about this.
What do I think about who?
Rap, like as a, like
Rap?
music. Yeah,
You
as
know, I like some of it. I don't like all of it. I like when there's really good writing and there's that back backstory that I connect to. Again, I'm coming back to that word connection. If I can connect to it, it doesn't matter to me what kind of music it is. There's certainly some rap that I like. I can't help it. You know, and there's some of it that's just so nonsensical that I seriously don't have the patience for it. So it has to connect to me on some level.
okay. I'm just gonna put a couple names. I don't know if you know them. If you don't, that's fine. Uh, Tupac. You ever listen to any of his stuff?
Yeah, I certainly know the name, but I couldn't tell you
Okay,
um,
no.
anything off the top of my head that he's done. But I certainly know the name and
All right.
know that he does rap.
The other one I'm gonna mention is Eminem.
Oh, yeah. Who hasn't heard Eminem, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I'm very curious if you actually read his lyrics because
I have.
his
His
lyrics
lyrics
are
are amazing.
yeah, they're brilliant.
They really
There's
are.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's a seriousness and a story to them. That
I'm sure she does. I'm sure she does, Jag. I'm
yeah.
sure
I
she does,
just don't
Jag.
know by name,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I've
No,
certainly heard Tupac.
no, Eminem is one of the most brilliant lyricists
Yeah.
I've ever seen. And since we're talking poetry, I just say that because if you again we're talking about where poetry has flourished in the world, and really it's music, rap in particular, but also like there. I mean, even just basic like soft rock has got a poetic flow to it, right? Okay, California Dreamin'. Okay, that's a good one. I don't know if she knows that one, but yeah. Um, but
I'll look for it after we're done.
yes, yeah. So the other, like, I mean, the other, like, it's funny because we talk like brilliant lyrics. There's Eminem, there's Tupac, right, and then there's like people, and then we talk about Dr. Seuss, who's the other extreme of it, right? So it's like,
He might
um,
have been the original rapper.
you know, that would be, you know what? Honestly, I think it's Johnny Cash.
Okay.
I think it's Johnny Cash. I
Yeah.
think Johnny Cash. I mean, I mean, don't get me wrong. He could definitely like, especially later on in his career, he definitely could sing. But if you listen to his early stuff, it's almost like he's orating, and that's why I think. I'm serious, Jay. If you listen to his early stuff, not his later stuff, but his early stuff, it's more like he's orating than singing. Yeah, we could. We totally could. We totally could. We totally could. No, I bring it up like that because it like no, I mean there's lots of and actually to be fair, I mean there's lots of other people I could mention too. But if I'm looking at it like from when like the rise of it, it's just like there's lots of names in history. Like Eminem wouldn't exist without Elvis. Like he just wouldn't, right? But I mean, yeah, but I mean to say Elvis's rap would be silly, right? But definitely there are some elements of the original King of Controversy that went into the modern King of Controversy, and so on and so forth. So, but yeah, no, I just want to like it's interesting. Do you think from like a written perspective that poetry will ever hit what it did back in the 1800s, 1900s again, like become what they did?
I think there's especially there's a younger generation now that's really into poetry and the original, well, not original, but years ago it was the beat poets and now it's the slam poets. There's quite a
Yeah,
bit of that happening, and that is all about story and rhyme and rhythm and the combination of musicality and lyrics. I mean, you know who doesn't have a million songs in their head? I mean, I wake up with a song in my head every day, a different song. It's either the music first or the lyric or the combination of them.
yeah,
But I think and look at concerts. I mean, you know, people are there singing along for hours.
yeah, yeah.
To
It's
whoever
fantastic.
they're there to listen to, and what they're singing is lyric. What they're singing is poetry. What they're singing is story.
Yeah. Well, stories are everywhere. Like literally,
Yeah.
I can go down the street. Like I can go down the street and look at the billboard, and stories are absolutely everywhere. What I realize is like, wait, there's no money in writing. No, there's tons of money in writing. It's about imagining what you actually see in front of you. And once you see that, right, it can be an incredible. It opens your eyes to what is possible, and that's always a lot of fun. Um, in my case, like I said, I've dealt with like the bigger Gilgamesh epic style poetry stuff, like with Alice in my first series, and I'll still do. I think I'm going to always do something like that for the rest of my career, because also I'm a graphic novel guy. I love comics, and
Mm.
that's the other thing about poetry, and like going back to the Dr. Seuss analogy a little bit, that idea of combining like words and pictures, poetry and song fit that so very well.
And graphic novels are something that are really well. It's been taking off for quite a while. I mean, I borrow a ton of books from the library. I borrow all kinds of genres, but I do also take home graphic novels, and I enjoy them. I love the art. I love the story. I love all the detail that could be put into just one panel of a comic. It's just amazing.
I'm looking at your shelf. I could swear I'm seeing V for Vendetta. Am I wrong?
Um, you are wrong,
Okay, I am wrong. Yes.
but
Trained professional. Hey, listen, I'm a trained professional. Just ask Jag. She'll tell you that. No, but I actually am curious. What do you read graphic novel wise? What do you like?
um, the names are going to escape me. I just when I go on the library website and I'm looking for something in particular, and then they always, maybe you like this, maybe you like that, and um, so I've certainly recently brought home some graphic novels about queer youth because I
Okay.
think that's something that I didn't have the experience of growing up, and I think it's really important that queer youth see themselves in a book, in a story, in a graphic novel. I think that's huge. So that sort of thing interests me because I didn't have it when I was growing up, and I think it's so important. And I'm always interested in somebody's version of story, whether they're a youth, a young adult, teenager, somebody my age, any of it. So
Yeah.
I, if it's interesting, I take it and I read it.
Okay. Like for that, the biggest. I can't remember their first name, but Osmond's graphic novels are big into that
Alice,
stuff.
isn't it?
I think.
Heartstopper series, is that it?
Yeah, I'm thinking that. Yeah, I
I think.
forget her. I don't know. I don't know if her first name, but that's. I mean, those are big right now. Even manga has got. Man, can't remember the name of him right now, but he's doing a big section of that right now. It's probably going to be one of the bigger trends of the next probably couple years in
Oh
both.
wow.
Probably. Like, if they're putting this much emphasis on it now, I can imagine it lasting for at least a few years, right? So I could be wrong.
I
Hold
just
on.
checked.
Here.
It is Alice Oseman. Oseman. Yeah.
And Jack Chris has a book recommendation for you.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Just gonna
Here, give
write
you a minute
that
to write
down.
this down. That's right. So for everybody that is listening to this, is perhaps check out Nothing Without Us, an anthology by Renaissance Press. All the stories in there are from other voices you may find interesting.
Okay.
And Renaissance Press is one of the cooler little small presses in Canada. So
Yeah, I don't know that one, so I will.
yeah,
I've
they're
got it written
based
down. I will check it out.
they are based in Ottawa. They are based
Okay.
there. So they do have some decent stuff. They do have some decent stuff in their catalog. So and there's some really decent writers in there too. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah, two in particular, SM Carriere. I mean, I hope I got it right. She was here. Sonia would probably just beat my ass for that, but that's okay. And I also like. I'm a big fan of Heather Chambers. That's somebody else that's in their catalog as well. I don't know if hey Jag, are you like an editor for them by any chance? Because it wouldn't shock me if you were, but I just figured if we're gonna give credit where credit's due, we might as well add you to it. So yeah, and that's yeah, she's smiling. So he's smiling there. But anyway, no, there's like I said, it's a big thing, and I think that's going to be a big thing. Oh, cool,
Cool.
very cool. And by the way, Jag, I haven't forgotten. I'm just finishing this chapter and I'm sending it to you because it was on me apparently. So I got a novel coming out next year, and I could have swore I was waiting to hear back from Jag. She's one of my beta readers, right? And turns out the culprit was me. Right, the culprit was me. Right, I didn't realize it because neither of us said anything to the other for so freaking long. But I got a chapter I got to finish. I was going to do it last night, but I was installing LibreOffice, and it took a while. So it's like, come on, new word processor, always fun. I did a test with a column for First Comics, and that's what I did last night. But tonight, that's what I'm doing. But anyway, I digress. Going back to you. So are you like self-published? Are you traditionally published? Like, do you have aspirations in both realms? None of those realms?
No, I'm traditionally published. My book, I'll just grab it here because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
about
yeah,
self-promotion here.
That's right.
So all of the books that are face out there are, have recent publications of mine in. So Phases here came out originally in 2019. Well, yeah, 3 years ago. It came out with a traditional publisher, Cotto Press here in Saskatchewan. And unfortunately, they went under shortly after the book came out. But I did get a new publisher this year, and so my new revised and expanded edition just came out last month. So what I was able to do with this book was I added 29 new poems and one new section to it, because after I wrote the first book, this is a chronological memoir in verse. It's my life story in poems, and it's very much chronological. But after I wrote the first edition, I would sit down to write a poem about my other project, and a poem would come out that fit in the book that had already been published. And so then it became wouldn't it be great if someday I could add these poems to the book? Never thinking it could happen, and it did. So yeah, I'm pretty excited, and it's interesting that since the second book has come out, when I sit down to write a poem or work on my other projects, there aren't any other poems still coming out that fit into this book. It's kind of like now it's
done.
Now it's done.
Well, I have a theory about that. First, I'm just gonna say something here because I wanted to just do a little. This is a funny little comment. I thought that book was a documentary on either Freddie Mercury or Rocky Horror. So that book was the one I was thinking was V for Vendetta for some strange reason. Like I said, I am a trained professional here. But the second thing is, I have a theory with every book you write is that you got a set amount of years to write that book, because your voice, I think, changes over a set period of time. And so I think, now it doesn't mean you can't write the book later. Sometimes you can, but it's a different book. It's not the same. It's not the same story. And I keep that in mind. So it's like every idea I have, it's like I got a time limit to tell these stories, or because I got other stories that are going to come into my head, and I got to tell those stories too, because if I don't, right, then they go away, and I don't want them to go away. They came to me for a reason. So there's got to be something in it for me, and I kind of, right. That's my own personal belief on that.
Well, if it's in your head and it wants to be on the page, then you've just got to do it, right?
That's right. That's right. I right now I just pitched two graphic novel series, one to one publisher, one to another publisher. One of them is like the craziest YA thing I've ever come up with. The other one is a little homage to the Fahrenheit 451, and I'm kind of waiting to see kind of where that goes. And
interesting.
Yes, and the YA one's a homage to the Three Musketeers, a little bit. So. Also, Cowboy Bebop, because I love me some Cowboy Bebop. I don't know if you've ever seen any anime, but that one's a good one, and I think you'd dig that one. So
I've heard of it, haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's fun. If you like the Zombieland thing, you trust me, go down to Bebop. It's not. It has the same kind of fun feel. It's a different kind of story, but it's got a fun feel to it. And how it combines music, the music, all the titles are of the music actually tie into the stories too, which I think is brilliant. It's just one of those little brilliant little books series. But I digress. What I wanted to ask was this: you wrote your memoir about yourself, and it's something I said earlier at the very beginning. You put a lot of work into that, right?
Yeah.
So, and I find when we often look back at the stuff we've done or where we've been, it's like, holy shit, I was awesome. Right. All right. All right. Because, and I say it like, and maybe not quite to that degree, more like, I can't believe I did all this. I can't
Yeah.
believe I
Yeah.
accomplished this much. Right. And I say it like that because in the middle of the journey, you don't always see what you've done. And at the end of the journey, right, you can kind of go back and look and go, holy crap, I did
I did
that.
that. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah. Was there a particular poem or verse that made you say, I did that? Wow, I did that in there.
Um, yeah, I sort of feel about, I was talking to a writing friend about this last week, and I said, I feel like I've kind of, um, mothered this poem into the world, and, it's now like it's a teenager and it's off in the world finding its own way, and I'm just, in the background, smiling and being supportive, and sometimes, just hoping you're going to be okay out there, kind of thing. But there's certainly a poem in here that's become my personal manifesto, I guess, and it was a poem in the first edition that way more people related to than it ever occurred to me that it would.
Mhm.
So I found that really interesting. I thought there were other poems that would have a different impact or a different connection to people, but but this particular poem, it's called "Why a Parade," and it's a question that when I came out. I mean, I was about your age when I came out. Because I was in traditional relationships before that. So yeah, all of a sudden I'm coming out, and I'm marching in parades, and I'm getting involved in the community, and there are a lot of people out there like, why do you guys need a parade? Like, what's that about? We don't have a parade. Why do you need a parade? So this poem was written in response to that.
Okay, so we got a question from the audience here. Are you going to read any of your poetry tonight? Would you like to hear one?
Oh well, what a segue.
Yeah, I know.
Almost
Segue.
like we planned it, right?
Trained motherfucking professional right here.
Let me find that poem. Um, I read it all the time. Where is it?
Somewhere over the rainbow.
Okay, I'll just
Hey.
check the
Listen, when
contents.
in doubt, it's okay. Listen, no one here will know how much you cheated to find it. It's okay. It's all right.
Okay, here it is. Why a parade? For the 4-year-old girl who rejects her dolls and miniature ponies for toy cars, trains, and Lego, and the 7-year-old boy who would rather skate Lutz and axle jumps than play hockey, and the 12-year-old tomboy who cries when her mother insists it's time you wear a bra, and the 13-year-old who has less in common with the guys than his girl friends, and the 14-year-old who's bored with her friends giggling about really cute guys, and the 18-year-old boy who obsesses about wanting breasts and no penis, and the 25-year-old guy lingering over the glossy pages of Men's Health, and the 31-year-old trans woman who doesn't know how to tell her family she wants sex reassignment surgery, and the 38-year-old wife who agonizes about how to leave her husband for a younger woman, and the 45-year-old husband who cruises dark city parks and for the men he hooks up with, and the 56-year-old widow who discovers romantic love with a longtime lady friend, and the 70-year-old man keeping a hospital vigil for his friend and secret lover, for all of them and all the others who don't identify with gender and sexual norms, who don't fit the stereotypes, labels, and acronyms, who are still discovering their true selves. For all of them and all of us and all our allies, that's why a parade.
I don't know if I should clap or not on this one. So it's like kind of one of those. It yeah, I'll give you a little clap. How about that? I'll just give you a little clap for that because it's
I'll
like
take that.
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
take
you'll take a
that.
little clap. Yeah, I don't know if I should be like dancing or I don't feel it's quite that, but it's like it's quiet read and you do have an audience here, so like you guys, you want to comment on it, go comment on it. It's awesome. But clap clap. See you guys.
Clap,
See there
clap,
you go.
clap.
There you go. There you go. So it sounds like the year of your surgery. I don't know if it was around the same time, but it was just like it was a year you made a lot of changes.
Yeah, it's there's always a combination of writing from the now and writing from what happened a bit in the past. This poem is a combination of those things. It's a combination of that rush of marching in a pride parade and feeling like I found my people, and in some of that finding some of myself. Um, that kind of
Hmm.
thrill of connection never gets old. Never gets old for me.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. You got it. Thanks so much for sharing there. So enjoy that and follow the journey. By the way, Mum Guyver, I hope I got I hope I got your name right. I'm worried I actually am screwing your name up, but yeah, enjoy that and follow the journey. Thanks so much for sharing. Like it's you gotta be true to who you are. Going back to the beginning of this, and you gotta find whatever that looks like, and then you can't worry about perfect.
I'm
Yeah.
Guyver. I'm Guyver.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Gotcha. No, no. I say it like that because like ultimately, I think especially memoirs, it's about those honest moments in time that change you. And sometimes, so I have made a promise, and it's something I will do next year. I promised a gentleman by the name of Tim Chismar I would talk about the hardest part of my struggles, my first apocalypse, which was when I was 27 years old, right? Not the pandemic. That was a different kind of apocalypse for me, and it doesn't hit you the same way. Those personal moments of recognizing who you are and who you want to be, those are important. So I've made a promise to do it. But memoirs, it almost feel like it's almost in one sense, it always feels like you're a bit of a different person. If you got enough time has gone by, it's like I'm not that person anymore. But at the same time, without this person, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, yeah. That past person informs who you are today. That
Exactly.
it's a layering. It's how I see it. It's
Yeah,
every experience, every year, everything that happens, layers and layers and layers, and is part of who I am sitting right here at the moment.
all right. And that's ultimately, I think what's about is finding out who you are and where you fit in or don't fit in this crazy world and making peace with that, whatever that looks like. Miss Belinda, I think. Actually, I have one last question. I'm very curious about something. And if you don't want to answer, this is. I always I'm afraid to ask this question. It's an age question. How old are you by any chance?
I just collected my first old age security check 2 months ago. I'm 65. I
Oh
turned
wow.
65 in June.
Okay, so you've lived a little longer than I have, and some of the things I'm talking about here, you're like, I've been through all this shit before in some
Yeah,
form. Some
but you're the age of my daughter and some of her friends and so, some of my neighbors and stuff, and I connect. I I remember what it was like then, and I appreciate what it was like then, and I appreciate what people are going through now. And, yeah, I don't just hang around with people my own age.
oh no, I sincerely hope not. That would be. I think. Well, actually, there's two things that make me think of hell. One of them is a video game called Devil May Cry. There's an elevator scene where he's going between elevators, and there's this really really terrible elevator music on. Keep in mind, he's fighting demons between levels here. Okay, but in here he goes, "This is hell." this is hell, and I agree with him that that was a terrible place to be in. But the second part, I think the second part is um living in an echo chamber. I want people younger than me showing me different cool ways of doing things.
Mhm.
Because yes, I have some of their experiences, but they're doing it differently than me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a good thing. Because I don't know if I did it all right, and if they find a better way, kudos, right? Right.
Well, the world you have at 40 is very different than the world I had at 40. You know, they're you
Oh
know
yeah.
so hugely different. It's mind-boggling sometimes.
Oh yeah. Like no, and it's going to be even different. Like when I get to like again, I already know what I'm going to be like when I'm 65. I'm probably going to be on the beach somewhere, right? Right. Doing the Bailey's and ice cream thing,
Yeah,
surfing,
yeah.
right? Right, and probably hitting on women half my age. Probably, that's
Could
probably what I'm
happen.
gonna be.
Could
What?
happen.
Yeah, it totally could, right? Right, it totally could. Or I mean, anything's possible, but I mean, it's just like, but I don't expect the world I see here now to be the same world I saw growing up.
No, it won't be.
No, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Ultimately, even though I think the journey is going to be rough the next few years, I think there's going to be some rude awakenings for everybody. I do think, again, I do believe that the future does get better one step at a time, and it's just a matter of walking through it and being willing to let what happens happens.
Yeah.
All right, and I guess the last question is this. Miss Belinda, are you happy with the person you see in the mirror? Because it sounds like you are.
Yeah, totally. I am. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we have an interview here. What do you think?
It's been fun. This has been a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
glad for this opportunity for sure.
No. I'm sorry I screwed up the time. So, folks,
Uh,
if you want,
no,
no.
take
If
that.
you, yeah, so yeah. Folks, if you're listening to this, I didn't realize that Central Saskatchewan time and Alberta time are the same thing now. Like, so it's one of those. It's one of those little moments. But so you did do 3D pages. We did do a little bit of a promo about that. So I don't feel we could top the memoir part of it, but maybe what you should be doing is telling people where to find your book.
It is on Amazon and Kindle and Kobo and um, Nook, Rakuten, Scribe, Indigo,
It's everywhere.
Barnes and Nobles, Indigo. McNally's is a hugely popular bookstore here in Saskatoon. They've got it in, but certainly you can find it online.
Yeah, and how can they people?
Shadow Paw Press is a publisher.
Oh, really?
Shadow Paw Press.
Oh, Ed Willits. Ed
Brother,
Willett.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No,
Oh, of course, you would know. You would know Ed. Yes, so he's my
yeah,
publisher.
yeah. Honestly, I think he's great. I'm glad he's doing it. Like it's you. Brad Anderson has a book there that's really good, cool there. And Patuatero, it's really fun. It's a great little book. I think it's the title. Oh, Ed Willett, it's awesome. My only criticism with Ed Willett is I'm not sure he does Kickstarter right. That's a discussion for another day, right?
You and
Because
he can talk about that.
yeah. And I understand why he does it the way he does it, but I think anyway, that's not neither here nor there. But the title of the book is Phases, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Right?
hold it up again.
Yeah, that's the book. It's called Phases, right? And that is written by Belinda Bekter, rock star extraordinaire, right?
I'll take that.
Yeah. Hey, listen. So when I break 1,000 and I officially go on the road, so you want to come back? You can go to a place that you're comfortable with. You can eat Bailey's and ice cream and do this on the air.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I would
Right.
definitely do that.
All right. So that will happen at some point down the road. All right, I got a cool guest list already so far of people that are going to do this stuff. This is going to be fun. So, do you have a website like people can find you at? By the way.
Not yet, but it is in development. I'm not tech conversant at all, but I have a friend who is. So she right now is building my website. She is setting up my um, Facebook and Instagram business accounts, and she's going to be the manager for the website and those social medias until I know what I'm doing. So
Okay.
it is in development and won't be too long before before we get that
Okay,
launched.
so do you have any? Okay, I guess the last question. You might have answered it there. I'm just verifying this for due diligence. Is there anywhere on social media people can contact you right now?
I do have a Facebook page. I'm not, on it every day by any means,
Okay.
but yeah,
Oh
I do
yeah.
have
No.
Facebook under my name. Yeah.
So okay, so that would probably be. It's probably would be this one. I could be wrong, but if I am wrong, I'm sure Jag will let me know. But this is probably where people can find you in the
Yeah.
meantime,
Oh
right?
no, you've got my last name switched on. It's Betker.
Oh, okay.
You'll never find me at Bekter.
No, I they gave me an award for this podcast, Belinda. Can you believe that?
I knew that. I knew
Yeah.
that. Nikki
Yeah.
told me that.
Yes.
There we go.
There we go. So
Yeah,
you want to
that'll
find her.
work.
In the meantime, while she's building her stuff up, folks, go to facebook.com/Belinda Bekter, and that will absolutely do it. And that, folks, is the show. I have an early morning podcast tomorrow. Yes. See?
Yay, good to know.
Okay. Yeah. So there we go. I started this one because I got that one that works. My pleasure. You feel free to come back anytime, MacGyver. And to everybody, and that will do it for this episode of Just Joshing. Before I go, thank you for Belinda for coming on. Tomorrow, Lucy Leitner comes back. It's going to be an early morning stream okay. Yep, it'll be 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow if you guys want to come and check it out. Lucy is awesome. Definitely should check that out. And Friday, Friday I'm currently off. I may grab something. It's the last full week I can actually do streaming as the Flames have opened their home schedule. So I'm going to be at the Saddle Dome for the. My side. It's actually a legit side gig. Is I get to work for the Calgary Flames.
Oh, that's
and,
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's kind of a fun little side gig right now. So to everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.